And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. And you can log on to their website, se-ortho.com. With Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Florida, Georgia, tomorrow 3:30 in Jacksonville. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Of course, Billy Gonzalez, the interim coach, as it is the first game since the firing of Billy Napier. In Denmark, the interesting thing is, as we've gotten closer to the game, I think Gator fans are beginning to get more intrigued by what they will see tomorrow. A lot of it's unknown, right? First time play caller, first time that Billy Gonzalez will ever be the interim head coach. I still think Georgia wins the game, but I'm probably more intrigued about the game now than maybe I was Monday or Tuesday this week.
Oh, 100%. This whole week has been all about the coaching carousel. And then you add the last couple of days, it's been about the LSU governor, what he said, and then the LSU AD stepped down. That's added a little bit of drama to all this, there's so much debate between who's better for LSU and, where would you go if you were a coach and yada, yada, yada. And then, we do have games tomorrow. It was a little bit surprising to me. This line opened at 7.5. There was a lot of people in the media, I know, that were saying, Florida has no shot against Georgia. I wasn't really of that same thinking. But then, the injury report comes out and you have a lot of guys like, Mizell and Vernell Brown who aren't going to play. And then you're going to have a lot of true freshmen in the secondary. You already had a tall order and you were going to have to play your best game against Georgia to win. And now that those guys are out, it's going to be a lot tougher to at least be in the fourth quarter and beat these guys tomorrow.
I mean, players want to play, and I think they're going to be excited to get out there and play again. The crazy thing is, the last time they played, they actually did win an SEC game, right? I mean, has there ever been a game more forgotten than the Mississippi State win from 2 weeks ago, and an emotional win at that? You thought you were going to lose, and a 340-pound defensive tackle has the game-sealing interception. So from that standpoint, maybe a little bit of confidence, but then obviously Billy Napier got fired, 2 days or I guess a day later. But I think DJ Lagway, Jaden Ball, Dallas Wilson, the guys are just going to be excited to get back out there on the field. 5 games to go. It is what it is, right? They're 3-4. Everybody's talking about the coaching carousel, but you have your three biggest rivals, arguably, with Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida State. And then you happen to go to Oxford to play Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. So, for what these there will be a lot of intrigue surrounding most of them.
Oh, no doubt. There's still a lot to play for these last 5 games. For what it's worth, you can still play for a bowl game. I know a lot of fans don't care about that, but if you're a player, I'm sure you take a little bit of pride in that. You play Georgia, you play Tennessee, you play Florida State, and you can still find a way to ruin Ole Miss's season potentially like you did a year ago. So there is still a lot to play for in these next 5 weeks of the season.
All right. So I guess the big question is, how will they come out and look tomorrow? Obviously, it's been a whirlwind for the players. Like I said, I believe they're going to be excited to get back out there, but excitement will only get you so far. With Napier gone, with Billy Gonzalez in, how will they respond to an interim coach and all the turmoil surrounding the program? What is your expectation for Florida tomorrow?
That's a great question, and the answer is I have no idea. And I think for everybody that is watching, that's a fan, has no idea either, which I think makes this game very intriguing. At least at the start, only the players and the coaches know how this game is going to go. I'm more excited because I think Florida has a chance. And I think they're going to play more free. And you have nothing to lose. I mean, we've seen a lot of crazy things happen in this rivalry. Where it was about 10, 11 years ago where Kelvin Taylor and Matt Jones run for 200 yards apiece, or you go all the way back to Lindsey Scott and the run he had. way back in 1980. Anything can happen in a rivalry game. And, I think Georgia's going to end up winning this game by at least 10 or 14. But when you have the intrigue of you have an interim coach, you have a new play caller, you would expect the play caller to be better than what you had at Billy Napier. And, the defense, they are what they are. They're good enough to keep you in the game. A lot of new guys are going to be playing like you saw in the second half against Mississippi State. I would expect Georgia to probably take a couple shots. I mean, Florida has been very lucky when they played Texas and Mississippi State when there was a lot of deep shots that those two teams did not connect with that would have been touchdowns. And I'm sure Georgia has seen that. So yeah, I think it'll be a decent game at least to start the game. And both teams are coming off a bye, but in the second half, I think Georgia's going to be the better team.
No, I agree. I think Georgia's going to win the game. The one thing about Georgia, though, they're in the top five, right? They're like a top 10, some top five, and others. They're certainly going to go to the college football playoff if they win out. They might even be able to lose another game and still get into the college football playoff. But this is not a dominating Georgia team. They lost at home to Alabama. And while that's their only loss, you think back to Tennessee, Ole Miss, and primarily that Auburn game. Now, to their credit, they have found ways to win these games in the fourth quarter, but they have not dominated a lot of their opponents, a lot of their at least better competition this year. So I don't expect Georgia's going to come out there athlete for athlete and beat up Florida 35-10 because they really haven't done that this year to any other team. If Florida doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't commit penalties, and actually plays a clean football game, I do think it is a game late third quarter, early fourth quarter.
Yeah, it would not surprise me there. And I was saying this a couple weeks ago. I mean, the people that were saying Florida has no shot against Georgia, I'm like, yeah, Florida's not good, but clearly you haven't seen Georgia. I mean, the only purely dominant team in college football this year has been Indiana.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. I mean, Ohio State, I know they were undefeated, but they're not a team that I look at least right now on Halloween and say, damn, they're rolling and I don't want to play those guys. Now, I think, Ohio State's probably still one of the top two or three teams in the country. But with that being said, going back to Georgia, they're down 10-0 and Auburn has the ball inside the one. They fumble. Most people believe it was a touchdown. They call it a fumble.
It was a touchdown.
And so Auburn's supposed to go up 17-0. Instead, Georgia gets the ball inside their own one with 2 minutes left. They have like an 85, 87-yard drive before the half, and they still only ended up with like 78 total yards in the first half.
Yeah.
And then the Tennessee game, they only led that game in regulation for like a couple minutes. So this isn't a case where it's 2017 where Georgia is crushing everybody in the run. Nobody can score on their defense, and Florida is terrible against everybody. That's not the case, at least in this year's game. I do think Georgia's going to run the football a lot. And we'll see. I think, this will probably be a low-scoring first half if I had to guess right now. Both teams coming off a bye, and you have no idea what Florida's going to throw at you. I would expect a lot of trick plays because you have nothing to lose, and you're playing free.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. Again, for the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, and you can listen to the good doctor, Kevin Murphy, Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan on the drill for his weekly analysis of injuries in the world of sports. More on the game in a moment. Now let's get to obviously the other big topic, which is the coaching search. And again, nothing's going to happen for another 6 weeks minimum. You might even be looking towards end of December, beginning of January before we even have clarity as to who the next Gator coach is going to be. Everybody still wants Lane Kiffin, I think, in Gator Nation. I think some people, before the LSU governor did what he did, and we'll get to that in a moment, had started thinking about the idea of Eli Drinkowitz. I know I had Connor O'Gara on our show, Hacker After Dark, Connor from Saturday Down South, and I think he does a good job. He was pretty complimentary of Eli Drinkowitz, said Florida could do a whole lot worse than Eli Drinkowitz. But clearly, Denmark, it is still all about Lane Kiffin for a majority of Gator fans.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. There's been a lot of changes around, everything else, with LSU and their job potentially and what they're going to do. Yeah, that hasn't changed the last week. The only thing that's changed is that LSU, or sorry, not LSU, Lane Kiffin addressed his team about all the rumors Friday night before they played Oklahoma, and then they went and beat Oklahoma. Um, and that's really been about it for Florida side. I mean, it's just a bunch of rumors and talking heads like me and you saying, I think it's going to be this guy, I think it's going to be that guy, and that's really it.
And I do think there are backdoor conversations happening, closed door chit chats between Gator, you know, trustees and ADs and agents of certain guys. Now to the LSU stuff, that was wild, right? I mean, the LSU governor, Jeff Landry, just going scorched earth on AD Scott Woodward out there at LSU to the point where Woodward apparently is going to leave the university. I mean, you're not going to recover from that public just obliteration that the governor gave you. The governor also in Louisiana had a lot of interesting things to say about how agents work in college football. And is that a direct shot at Jimmy Sexton, the
Yes.
agent of Lane Kiffin? Most would tell you it probably is. If you're Lane Kiffin, or Jimmy Sexton for that matter, how does the LSU governor's comments affect your thoughts on that job?
I don't know if it's the comments that affect you. It's more of because I think LSU is in the same predicament as Florida. They don't have a president, and now you don't have an AD.
Yeah.
So when you go to a job as in college football and you're the head coach, you want your president, your athletic director, and whatever the head coach is for football, you want them to be in alignment on what they want, what you want accomplished with, whatever it is, facilities, how you want the program ran, all that. Okay, well, if you don't have that at your LSU, you need to get those things in order. Now, Florida, they don't have a president right now. They have an interim, and they have an AD. So nothing's really changed with Florida, and it's been this way for a couple of years. So that whole LSU thing, I don't know about the whole inner workings with their boosters and how the decisions are made there, but I saw it was Sunday morning where all of the boosters met at the governor's mansion. I'm like, why would they be doing that? Oh, because he's one of the most influential people on making the decision. So now this all kind of makes sense. This is why he has a big opinion. And I'm sure, he's got, he's one of the big money people that makes the decision. So
Yeah.
that's that. So you would think that the governor is going to have a say so on, who's going to be the next AD and who's going to be the next coach. So, take that for what it's worth.
And look, I think and again, there's a lot of rumors, people you talk to, you hear different things. Even before all this, the public perception was that LSU was going to go after Lane Kiffin. I don't know if that's actually in the works out there. In talking to people out in Louisiana, people really close to the program, yeah, Lane Kiffin's in the conversation, right? But it's like people said it was a foregone conclusion that was LSU's guy. I've been led to believe that might not be necessarily true.
I had never heard that even from the jump. Like when Florida's job became open, it was like, okay, this is Lane Kiffin's job. We're gonna go get Lane Kiffin, and it was, you could not that you could see it, but you could see people chanting for Florida side Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. When LSU became open, it was like, whoa, okay, who are we getting? We getting this guy? We getting that guy? Lane Kiffin's out there. But it was just Lane Kiffin's out there. It's not like we're gonna pound the fist and get Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, no, look, and again, and we'll have plenty of time to do this. Eli Drinkowitz lost last week, and he's also lost a couple of quarterbacks now, so their chances of the playoffs are not great. And the bottom line is, if you're a Gator fan, if you still want Lane Kiffin, they're probably making the playoffs in Oxford. I mean, they barring something unforeseen at this point, because they don't have the toughest schedule down the stretch, they're going to make the playoff, and that will complicate things. Now, if you say Lane's our guy and we'll be patient, well, okay. But I mean, you might not be hiring a coach if he decides to come at all until early to mid January. And that would certainly be interesting to not have a coach in place until that far along in the process.
Yeah, and if I have to make that decision, I'm perfectly fine with that. If I have to eat a high school recruiting class, that's fine. I'll hit the portal for a year, and then I'll I mean, Dallas Wilson didn't come to Florida until mid-January.
Yeah.
And he was committed to somewhere else before he came to Florida. I mean, I'm not gonna say that's gonna happen with a lot of kids if the playing kid comes to Florida mid-January, but that's the world we live in now. Yeah, it's gonna be. I would be content with that, and it's so funny. Last week, Ole Miss, they have a good win against Oklahoma, and then everybody like gets their bracket and they get their Sharpie. They're like, all right, Ole Miss, they're in the playoff. I'm like, yeah, I mean, upsets never happen in college football. I mean, it's just they didn't go to Florida last year and lose, or they didn't, they're not in the SEC or anything like that. So yeah, they're on playoff now.
No, that's fair. I mean, you're right about that. But I mean, all we can go on is on paper, and on paper, they're going to be a big favorite in the rest of their games.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, that's an easy statement to say, but I mean, for everybody's like they're in, like, no doubt. I'm just like, okay. Like I remember last year in November, like all these games, like we thought we knew what the bracket was going to be like, and it wasn't like that. Come the first week of December.
I want to get back to Florida, Georgia in a minute, but I'll tell you about tomorrow's college football slate. If I don't know if Vanderbilt can keep doing it. I mean, maybe they can. If they beat Texas tomorrow, that's their last big hurdle too. If you really look at their schedule, because there are some people that'll tell you 10-2 Vandy could still get into a 12-team playoff. And if they get by Texas to get to 8-1, I mean, I know they still have Tennessee, right? But I would find it hard to believe they would lose 2 games if they beat Texas tomorrow. Georgia Tech's kind of in the same boat. Indiana's kind of in the same boat. I mean, you could be legitimately talking a quarter of the playoff field will be Indiana, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt if all 3 of them win this weekend.
Well, I mean, you have so many ACC teams. I forget who it was that was saying this. There's a lot of ACC teams that could have 2 losses at the end of the year, and somehow they don't play each other, which is crazy. So you have all of that. I mean, it's all going to get decided out. I don't think we're going to have selection Sunday, and you're going to have 18, 20 teams that are going to have a shot at 12 teams in the playoff. I think it's going to come down to what it usually is. You're going to have 12-team playoff. You're going to have 13 teams, and one team's going to be moaning and complaining that they're not in, and that's going to be that. Vandy, Texas. I saw Texas as a 1.5 favorite. I think that game is at Texas. I
believe it is. And the Arch Manning stuff, I mean, I think he's going to play, but obviously he got a little bit rattled last week.
No, he took a couple shots, and he's physical guy. But I mean, dude, you talk about Texas, Mississippi State. If you saw the end of that game,
Crazy.
Texas right off 24 points in the fourth quarter. They were playing terrible. And they had a punt return for a touchdown. They had a couple big plays. I think they had a turnover or some kind of stop on defense. Yeah, if they play the way they did last week against Kentucky, which Kentucky's not very good, Vandy's going to win that game.
It's an interesting week in the state, too. Miami might not be able to lose again because they obviously dropped the one to Louisville. They, I believe, have to go to SMU. It's like their first road game outside of the state of Florida, which is crazy. It's a noon kick out there, which, again, is an early kick. SMU coming off a bad loss to Wake Forest. Does Miami have any trouble with SMU tomorrow?
Probably not. You're coming off a loss, and you have an extra day to prepare. Usually good teams come back, and they, when you get embarrassed like that, like they did on a Friday night, I think they probably, I would assume, had a good week of practice, and I think they'll be ready to go tomorrow night.
They probably can't afford, tomorrow afternoon. They probably cannot afford a loss. And then tomorrow night, Florida State, Wake Forest. I didn't realize Wake Forest is 5-2. Wake Forest is a decent team. Florida State better come to play tomorrow, or they're going to lose 5 in a row.
Yeah, I don't know what confidence you have in Florida State. For them to win. Castellanos, he took that back concussion. That shot against Stanford.
What a shot that was! Oh.
And I know that was 2 weeks ago, but you wonder how much that still lingers. And this Florida State defense isn't very good. Other than maybe Malachi Danzy, I really don't know what you have on offense. Losing to Stanford. That was pretty bad, for the brand of Florida State and what they're accustomed to. And it feels like that is, for whatever straw you were hanging on to, losing to Stanford was probably the last one for Mike Norvell, and he's probably going to be let go at the end of the year.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialist brings you Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com, and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Again, for the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. Go to se-ortho.com, and we certainly appreciate the continued support of Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. We'll wrap up Florida, Georgia in a moment. Next time we talk, the defending national champion Florida Gator basketball team will have their season underway. They tip it off Monday night in Las Vegas against Arizona. Alex Condon, Thomas Haug, Micah Hanlockton, Ruben Chinelu. You bring in Boogie Flan. You bring in, Xavier Lee. There's a lot of expectations on Florida. Their entire front court is returning. Now, you have to replace three great players in Martin, Richard, and obviously Walter Clayton. But anytime a defending national champion takes the floor, there is a lot of excitement, Denmark, and I get the sense Gator Nation's pretty fired up for Monday night.
Yeah, it'll probably be like for most people like myself, I'll just be do my normal day to day, and then I'll be like, oh, the Gators play in about 5 minutes. Oh, okay. I guess I'll watch them at whatever time they play. Yeah, it's
I don't know
exciting for
about
them.
that. See, now you're not really a basket. I think people I've talked to, people are traveling out to that game. They're doing the
Yeah,
doubleheader, Jags
yeah.
Raiders in Vegas, and then the Gators. I get the sense people are pretty excited about Monday night.
Yeah, if this were a weekend game, it might be a little different, but it'd be a Monday. You got a work schedule, and then you come back on a Monday. I'm thinking for more of that sense. For most people that got their blue collar regular 9 to 5 job. I know they're playing out in Vegas, so I will definitely watch. I mean, everything I've seen, their consensus preseason top 5 team across any ranking you look at. Alex Condon is preseason All American and a couple of whatever you want to call it, whatever people put out the preseason All Americans. Yeah, Florida's gonna
How
have another deep team.
Yeah, Thomas Haug's going to be the interesting one because he went from being, 4 last year, and he's going to be the starting 3 this year. Apparently, like people that I know that have seen him practice said his jump shot is like a completely different human being. Like he could be really good. And keep in mind, the only reason that Florida beat Texas Tech last year in the Sweet 16, or I guess the Elite Eight, was Haug hit those threes. So his jump shot was already pretty good. I've been told it's considerably better.
Yeah, he was mostly a 6 man last year, and it was one of those things where if nobody was getting going last year for the offense for Florida, he was the guy you could rely on and get some juice. Now he's going to be one of the guys that you need to get him from the jump, because like you mentioned, a couple of those guys are gone. He's going to be one of the guys returning, and he's really good. So yeah, a lot of excitement with them. 100% honesty, I'm all football until about January, and then when basketball gets into about conference play, that's when I start kind of watching basketball and start watching that fully.
That's fair. I'm different. I mean, I'll obviously watch it because the non-conference is nuts. The non-conference, they play Arizona, they play UConn, they play Duke, they play Florida State. I mean,
Duke's gonna be
they're
fun.
yeah, Duke at Cameron Indoor in December. I mean, it's going to be a great non-conference for the defending national champions. And again, when you return the entire front court, literally all 4 of your bigs are back, and you had to replace the backcourt. And we see Will Richard, by the way, is doing really good in the NBA. Walter Clayton's doing some nice things as well. So it's going to be hard to replace those guys. But I'm excited to see Boogie Flan. I'm excited to see, obviously, Xavier Lee as well. And the Gators tip it off Monday out in Las Vegas against a top 15 ranked Arizona Wildcat team. All right, let's wrap up on the cocktail party tomorrow. Final cocktail party here in Jacksonville for a couple of years, right? It's going to Atlanta in 26, Tampa in 27, because, of course, the stadium of the future is being built here in Jacksonville. Presumably, it comes back in 2028, and what a scene that'll be with that brand new $1.4 billion renovated stadium for Florida, Georgia in a couple of years. But the final one for 36 months tomorrow. Again, I'm not breaking any news here. I'm taking Georgia to win. I do think that it is a game, at least early in the fourth quarter. I don't think it's a blowout by the Dogs, any stretch of the imagination there. I think Florida's going to be motivated to play. I think they're going to be motivated to play for Billy Gonzalez. And I do think it is a game, but I just find it hard to believe with all the turmoil surrounding the program, the firing of Billy Napier, that they're going to be able to actually beat Kirby Smart and the Dogs tomorrow.
Yeah, I give them a better shot tomorrow with Napier not on the sideline and someone else calling the plays. I know they said it's a collaboration, of who's going to be calling the plays. We'll see. I don't think that really matters as of the moment. I think there's going to be one person calling the plays and they're going to be calling the shots. And then, yeah, I'm very excited, because I thought, Florida had no chance of winning this game with Napier. I don't think Florida's going to win, but I think Georgia's going to win by 10 or 14. And I see a close game, at least in the third quarter. And I think Georgia's the better team in the fourth quarter. What's sad about this game is, the whole coaching carousel has kind of taken a lot of lackluster off this game and a lot of juice. But Florida hasn't won this game since 2020. And there was, 17 people in that game in the stands because of COVID. And then if you look at the last time Florida won this game in a full capacity stadium was 2016. That was the year I graduated high school, and I've been graduated college for 5 years now.
That's crazy.
That's pretty pathetic. So the next coach that gets this job, you're not going to have this atmosphere. I know you'll have it in Atlanta and Tampa, but you're not going to have this atmosphere. And at least say you won this game in Jacksonville for another couple of years, which kind of stinks a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Georgia just beating the tar out of us the last couple of years. I know a couple of games have been close and they beat them in 2020, but it didn't have that same feeling because, there weren't that many fans in the stands.
I agree with what you said earlier. If you're the Gator coaching staff, they're all probably going to be gone anyway in a couple of weeks. Throw the kitchen sink. I mean, onside kick, fake punt, double reverse pass, flea flickers. I mean, literally, what do you have to lose? Throw everything you got at Georgia tomorrow. Some will work, some won't. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to lose? Well, everybody's picking you to lose anyway. So I do think we will see some trickery from the Gators tomorrow, and maybe quite a bit of it.
Yeah, and you had an extra week to prepare. So, I'm sure Georgia's going to throw a lot of wrinkles they haven't shown this year. Florida will probably do the same. And these coaches are still playing for a job. It's not like they're going to say F it and we're just going to start, doing a bunch of stuff, throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. They're still playing for their next job. So, they have that to look forward to. I know fans probably don't really care about that as much, but that's what, coaches are still thinking right now. And, yeah, I do think that Florida's going to take a couple of deep shots. I do think you're going to see design plays for Dallas Wilson a lot because he's primarily your only playmaker that's on the outside. That's a dominant guy. And I know I saw earlier this week, Billy Gonzalez was talking about getting the ball to Trey Wilson. He's still on the roster. He is playing. I would expect him to get at least 4 or 5 catches this game. Something that hasn't happened, it seems like, for an eternity. Florida does. They still do have some weapons, even though Vernell Brown and Miles are going to be out.
Yeah, you got to get the ball to Trey Wilson, and Jaden Ball needs the ball in his hands 20 times. Whether it's 20
Minimum.
carries, 17 carries, and 3 screens, I don't care how they do it. 20 times minimum. Jaden Ball needs the ball in his hands tomorrow. We'll see. The cocktail party kicks off at 3:30. You'll be able to hear it on 1010XL, and of course, Denmark and myself will be back to recap it all next week on Hacker After Dark, and then right here on the Gator Bytes podcast. We also invite you to join us for Hacker After Dark tonight, 8 o'clock, right here on 1010XL and 92.5, and a lot of these social media channels as well, as we will send you into the week talking Jaguars, Raiders, and of course, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist brings it to you, the Gator Bites podcast. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. For Dylan Denmark, I'm the hacker Ryan Green. Enjoy the world's largest outdoor